Hello, guys. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. It's the Jinn and Tonic show. I'm on my own at the moment. I don't know where Kling is. He was around just now. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Well, today, I think everything's going to be a little bit different because I am incredibly saddened by what happened now this week. I mean, for me, this is a real blow, right? Because this story with Charlie Hebdo, this is for me like I don't know, it's like a low blow because okay. Why am I sad? Why is this so significant for me? Well, I had hoped with all the violence in Iraq, all the violence in Syria, and everything in Nigeria and in Somalia, that this would somehow lead people into accepting that violence is not the way to go. And then exactly the opposite happens, exactly the opposite. And this is why I am so sad that people will think that what we did 20,000 years ago, when the people walked around with a club in their hand and just, if you didn't like something, you just clobbered them with your club and hit them over the head, that this is still present in today's brains, that this is still here. And then what I see is that Muslims are saying, well, this has nothing to do with Islam. This is actually damaging Islam. Well, how can it be damaging if it has nothing to do with it? So they're contradicting themselves right from the word go, and then they pretend as though this can make any sense. They can pretend as though they can just stick their head in the sand and say, yeah, this has nothing to do with me. This is not me. This is not what I believe in. And then just continue ignoring the blatant facts. And this is what makes me so sad, is that this collective denialism and this incredible contradictory attitude that Muslims have today. And this is why I think regarding Islam, I think this was the worst week in the history of Islam. I mean, they've always been. I see Klingschor.
Oh, come on! Worst week? Maybe the Mongol invasions were a bit worse.
No. I don't mean the head count. I don't mean the atrocities. I don't mean
you
the
mean
amount of
PR,
killing.
public relations?
No, it's the no. This was, I think, one of the killing things for Islam as such. This was so horrific because it shows the hypocrisy of the majority of Muslims. It shows how the majority of Muslims is not prepared to take responsibility for their belief system. It's their ideology, and they're saying, excuse me, I wasn't ready to talk so much. And I forgot. Oh shit! I forgot my melon balls. I've got such brilliant melon balls, and now I forgot them in the kitchen.
Melon balls.
For me, this is so sad to see that people will refuse to take responsibility for something that they own. It is their ideology. It is their belief. It is their God. I mean, these guys pray the same prayers. They read the same book. They go through the same rituals. They go and put their head on the floor and they say Allahu Akbar, and this is the same way as a billion, 1.2, 1.5. I don't know how many Muslims there are, but there's a huge, massive amount of people that are doing the same exact thing, and they are refusing to acknowledge that yes, you can use Islam to radicalize people. Yes, you can use Islam to create killing machines if they are just deluded enough. So if you sufficiently indoctrinate someone, and if you sufficiently tell them what they need to do is this for their God, and then they will get this huge reward, and they are gullible and stupid enough to believe this, they're going to go and do this. And you need to acknowledge that Islam is capable of doing that. It doesn't mean that everybody who is a Muslim will actually do this. No, 90%, well, all right, 70% of Muslims are better than their God. They don't need this. They don't need this killing just to make a point and just to say, well, we are the best, we are the greatest. They don't need this. They have sufficient believes in them to say, look, what I'm doing is good for mankind, it's good for my God, it's good for me, I'm getting my points, I'm getting everything, and I'm going to go to heaven, and this is all I want. And they're happy with that. But then there are those, and today in the messages, again, so somebody is saying, well, if you look at the czars and you look at the old people in the Bible, they had young kids as wives and they had hundreds of wives. And who the fuck cares? It's what we are doing today. It's what Islam, what Muslims are doing today. That is what counts. I don't give a continental fuck about what happened 1,000 years ago. Whether Solomon, I don't even... Who knows whether Solomon really existed as such? Who knows whether he really had 1,000 wives? So I don't care if people tell me that Solomon had 1,000 wives, and this is why now it's so good that Islam brings it down to 4 or 9 or whatever. It makes me sick. And now the people are doing the same identical thing and saying, yeah, but look at those killings there. It's horrible. And they must understand that people are now collectively going against this. They need to understand that now is the time. I mean, this is probably the last chance they're ever going to get, because now millions of people are against Islam because they're lashing out against Islam. They're lashing out against all Muslims. They don't understand these little differences because nobody has told them. I mean, the information policy of Islam is always, Islam is a religion of peace. 99% of all atrocities are committed by Muslims today on this planet, or 90% or whatever. So it doesn't fit together. So people are confused, and so they're saying, well, then they must be lying, so it's all Islam. No, it's not all Islam. But how can you convey the information, and how can you convey the facts that they don't go now and bomb every single mosque with perfectly normal people in there? How can you do that? I don't know. I'm so down about all this. I mean, it's so stupid. I mean, Charlie Hebdo is just. It was just another magazine. All right. It was not a huge big deal. They were satirizing. They were caricaturing politicians. I don't know, singers, all sorts of people, and religions. And why not? And one of these things is Islam, which is around today. 1 billion people are followers of this Islam. So why can't you make fun of it? It's making fun. This magazine was not killing anybody. It was not violent. It wasn't doing anything. It was drawing pictures. And that is how weak Islam is. This is how weak Muslims are. They feel threatened just by some pictures. And they need to go, and that's the only thing they can do. They can go steal a car, steal some weapons, go around, drive somewhere, kill some people, and then they run away. And they're doing this to schools, they're doing this to cafes, they're doing this to offices, soft targets. There's not a military installation. I mean, if you walk into a cafe in Australia, people are sipping their latte macchiato or whatever. They're not into violence, they're not in anything. And then Muslims come in and kill them. I mean, it's so weak. It's so impotent. It's incredible. I mean, how can they go in there, kill 12 people, and then they say, Allahu Akbar, wow, we have avenged the Prophet. No, you've done nothing. You've made a fool of yourself. And people are laughing about you because after the sadness goes away, I can already feel this. That I was incredibly sad by the idea that people who just use a fucking pen, they just draw pictures, stupid pictures. I mean, if I don't like them, I don't look at them. And only a very few people actually followed Charlie Hebdo. Now the next issue is being covered with 1 million plus. So they have now catapulted Charlie Hebdo to incredible fame, and this will last for a couple of months. So they made this a very successful magazine. They're not going to stop writing. Oh, shit. No, I need to stop. Kling, you go. I'm going to shut up now for a while.
I get your frustration, but the only my caveats would be I don't think any Muslims have to apologize for this. I don't think people are to blame.
Shit. No, sorry. Okay, then I need another 2 minutes. I'm sorry. No, this is not my point.
Yes.
My point is not apologize. No. Christ. You cannot apologize for the atrocities of others which are committed in your name. That is not what I am saying. I am saying they need to take responsibility, not by saying, "Oh, excuse me, I didn't mean to." No, I am talking about taking responsibility and saying, "Yes, it is capable, and now it is enough. We need to stop this." Not this, "Oh, I'm sorry that these people killed and they said Allahu Akbar, and I'm also saying Allahu Akbar, and this is now my fault." No, it is not your fault. It is your fault that you're not taking responsibility for your ideology, that you're not saying, we need to change this. We need to take the Quran and say, look, these sentences which say kill others and do this and use violence, all that, those were for 2,000 years ago. Today we have progressed. We are better than our God. We need to take this metaphorically. We cannot take this literally. We have to change our attitude towards our God scripture. This is what I'm saying. This is what I mean with taking responsibility. They need to acknowledge that, yes, Islam can radicalize, and the only way out of this is to take out the sentences in the Quran. Yes, it means a revolution. Yes, it means that you need to really change something. But fuck that. Either you're going to do this or you die. I'm sorry. So it's not about apologizing. It's about taking ownership and saying, okay, yes, it is possible, and now we need to change it from the core, not apologizing afterwards. It's avoiding it right from the middle. We need to go to the source and not to the effects.
So what you rather mean then is Muslims should be frank with the content of their scripture. Exactly. And legal writings, with I guess with things like the content of the Sunnah. What do the Hadith and related literature convey about? And the germane example, obviously, is Muhammad's murder or soliciting of murder of various satirists and poets and so on and so forth.
What he did when he came back to Mecca, for example. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, right. And so, I mean, and I get that, I guess. Although, obviously, I take a different view. I don't think that the scripture in and of itself has any agency, really, in determining people's behavior. So for me, it's an irrelevant exercise to tell Muslims to.
Yeah, but they've been told for 30 years they need to do this. Now they need to change it and tell them for 30 years to not do this. I mean, for 30 years, Saudi Arabia and all these what are these indoctrination schools?
I understand. The Wahhabization. I get you. But see, the Wahhabization, that's a political program. So for me, the thing to do would be to undermine or reverse that, well, to just cease that political program. Seems to me the first big issue, the first step. First step really is to tell Saudi Arabia to, fuck right off, I guess. And Qatar and all these other states that fund this kind of essentially this politico-religious ideology that they espouse.
Well, political radicalization, yeah.
Yeah.
Although I think it's also Egypt, it's also those places.
I think a big problem though is that often it seems as though, in and of itself, when someone tells you you should be a Wahhabi, I don't think that sells. I think the selling point is, look at, I don't know, Palestine, look at Chechnya, we have to fight, right? So it's like, so for example, let's take the German example of Sharif Kaushi. I don't know how to pronounce these names. The older brother of the two gunmen, right? I mean, he was radicalized by the U.S. torture of detainees in Abu Ghraib prison, for example. So it doesn't exist in a vacuum. People usually have to rely upon some sort of political or global narrative of some sort of injustice to really radicalize them. And then they have recourse. I mean, again, take this Sharif guy. He was back in 2005, he was a non-religious drug user, alcohol drinker, had a girlfriend.
Are you talking about this Kwachi guy?
The older brother of the thing that sparked this off, the two guys who walked into the cartoonist location.
Kwachi.
Kwachi, okay. So Sharif Sharif Kouachi. I mean, the older brother. So he was, one, radicalized by foreign policy issues. Two, was irreligious in his behavior. So even though his response now is articulated as, well, I guess some sort of Wahhabism or variation of their, in some sort of militant Islamic framework, it seems pretty implausible to attribute this to purely theology. It seems, well, obviously, because he was, I mean, so Islam is the cause, but his behavior was un-Islamic. I mean, if Islam is the main motivation in this guy's life, why wasn't he following?
Where does Islam tell you are not allowed to kill a policeman lying on the floor begging for mercy? Islam doesn't say that.
I don't mean that. I mean, is that the claim is that this guy's motivated by Islam. Okay, so if that was the case, we would expect him to be following the Sunnah, right? But then here he was as a drinker, as a drug user, as a committer of zina, right? So it's sort of like, well, okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's kind of, puts a big question mark on that for me. It makes it seem like actually Islam is almost like a post hoc framework, and the real motivation is the political stuff. But whatever. Anyway, we're right at the start of the show, so before we get into these sort of discussions again, do you want to? Do we have any preliminary materials to go over, and do we want to get any guests in?
Well, I think we should have guests right away. I just wanted to get your okay.
Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Then what I'm just going to do quickly is put this into the live link, because I think today we need to discuss this. I think it is important today. Oh yes, as I tell you, today Google is so slow. What the? I don't know what this is doing. Is it going through the? Now it's suddenly. I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's some. It's not all bad from this.
No. I have some positives.
Oh, the kosher store.
Exactly, that a Muslim went and hid people and helped people. This is the positive. Hang on, where's my text? Oh yes, no, really, I am so sad about this. You cannot believe how this has affected me. It's like, somebody comes and pulls the rug from underneath you. I really had high hopes. I really thought I had this figured out. I did not see this. I mean, what is brilliant is the reaction of the rest of the world. Okay, and you have this typical, the kingdom therefore strongly condemns and denounces this cowardly terrorist act that is rejected by true Islamic religion as well as the rest of the religions of it. No, it is not. I don't get what people are saying. Egypt also condemned. Two police, Turkish, fight against extremism and Islamophobia. Our religion is a religion of peace. We are against all forms of terrorism. What a fuckhead! No, it's not a religion of peace. Every time I see this, I want to go and shut them in the face. It is wrong. It is wrong. It is a lie to say our religion is a religion of peace. You mean peace as in, well, if everybody bows their head in one direction, then it's peace. Don't do this.
Well,
okay.
I doubt they have that.
Muslims are starting to wake up. Okay? There are a lot of Muslims which are now starting to question all these things and are starting to question, are we doing the right thing in saying this and giving it the name, the religion of peace and so that. Anonymous, okay, will hack jihadist sites which recruit people. So in other words,
yeah, right. Anonymous are just full of it.
Okay, but if they go and do that,
we're going to take on Mexican drug cartels
with Scientology. So if they do this now with jihadist recruitment sites, brilliant.
Well,
and now we see the other positives. We see actually how weak and desperate Islam has become. That they need to go and attack some drawers, some painters, and then say, wow, we've done something great. And this is how weak Islam is today. And some media are reproducing cartoons in defiance. And not like CNN's Amanpour calling them activists. And this is... this needs to stop. Anyway, so there are some positives, like the guy exactly. I mean, there was a policeman who was a Muslim. The policeman who got shot by a Muslim was a Muslim, and this Muslim terrorist didn't care that there was a Muslim, a wounded terrorist, a wounded policeman lying in the street that they had just wounded, and he was begging for his life as a Muslim, and this Muslim goes and puts a bullet in his head and says, I don't care about you, I don't like you, I'm going to shoot you. Boof, buff, gone, dead. And this is the kind of behavior, I think, this policeman, I think, is representative of all the outrage that the Muslims are now showing. And the same as the store owner, a Muslim working for a Jew in a store, brilliant. And then he is the one who then hides people so that they don't get shot by the terrorists. Brilliant. Those are the stories that we need to hear. Not these other stories of all the stupid assholes now who are saying, yes, we have avenged the Prophet. Okay, I'm shutting up. Ah.
All right, welcome guys to the show. TJ and Abu Murhed, welcome back guys. How's it going?
Doing good. How about you guys? How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. Oh, and Salamut as well. Hey, I've just been doing a lot of research, I guess. Just been being a big old nerd. Yeah, I haven't been making many videos lately, I'm afraid. I've got to get back into that. But yeah, that's about it. Just been researching various topics, history and all that kind of shit. Oh, and welcome also Salamut and Random Notepad. We've got a lot of people in today. Great. All right. Well, who got in here first? Abu Murhid, who came in first? So, what do you want to talk about? Do you have any thoughts on all this?
Hayakum Allah. Yeah, I wanted to comment on the last week's Hadith of the day, but I feel maybe we should talk about this Charlie thing first. Yeah, I remember. Back in the days, I remember, like, for example, when this Theo van Gogh guy was killed, and it was kind of funny because, or no, it's not funny at all, but I remember many, like, moderate Muslims. This was in another Arabic country, so it wasn't in Europe, but they were like kind of. They said that they wouldn't do it themselves, like they wouldn't kill him themselves, but they said something like, Alhamdulillah, he got what he deserved, and so on. So I'm afraid that there are many so-called moderate Muslims that have the same kind of like view on this, that they wouldn't do it themselves, but deep inside they are glad it happened or something. I hope it's not the case, but I'm afraid that's the reality.
All right, TJ, welcome as well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, when the story first broke out, I mean, obviously it was shocking. But after it sank in, I'm not really that surprised. I mean, this all started, I guess, with Salman Rushdie. I mean, his only crime was running a work of fiction, and basically, the government head of another country suborned his death, and like he actually offered money in his own name for somebody else's assassination, and yet most people, and particularly on the left, I mean, instead of going after the fatwa, they actually were going after Salman, and we're seeing the same thing today, and I just think that the leftist narrative is now dominating everything, whether it be the media, whether it be reporting, anything. And this whole thing of political correctness is getting people killed. And honestly, I think it's bullshit. I mean, people are dying every day, and to even point this out is like a crime in itself, or it's somehow Islamophobic, which is a bullshit term, which I think doesn't exist. And we've been sold these false narratives, and people are actually buying into the bullshit. So to me, I mean, if we were really gonna show solidarity with Charlie Hebdo, every single media outlet should have published those cartoons. and yet there are only maybe a handful, a handful of networks and that actually did that. So for me, I mean, it's kind of embarrassing, and I think the West should be ashamed, really ashamed of themselves. And it just really irks me the wrong way. And how are we going to win this war? If we can't even diagnose the actual problem, and the problem is an ideology. And while most Muslims, I would say, wouldn't go with that, still this cancer exists, and I think it needs to be wiped out. But this political correct environment is getting people killed. So I don't know what's going to happen.
What's the leftist narrative? What's the political correctness saying?
Well, political correctness is saying this, that this has nothing to do with Islam, and this has nothing to do with ideology. And I don't, and for me, being a person of the left, a former leftist myself, I mean, I was a Marxist myself, so I was hardcore left, and it's this. I think it was the beheading in Oklahoma was listed as workplace violence. A guy was preaching Islam at his workplace in Oklahoma, and he chopped off some woman's head, and they classified it as workplace violence.
You're kidding.
I shit you not.
Who classified it? What, the Communist Party of America?
No, I would say the leftist media did. That most of them said no. It wasn't an act of terrorism.
There's no leftist media. Well, I don't know. What are you talking? I don't know what media. Murdoch owns so many papers, for example, and he's extremely conservative, and his position is that exactly as you're saying, that there's this jihadist cancer. What leftist media are you referring to?
CNN.
The mainstream. It's not leftist.
It is not leftist.
For sure.
What
is left? Okay, then we need to explain what leftist is.
The left is anti-capitalism. The right is capitalism. It's as simple as that. Left is socialism, anarchism, or communism. Right, everything on the other side is the right wing of that. I mean, that's the only political system that makes sense. So, I mean, it's at the very best, these big companies you're referring to, CNN, are status quo. They're not. I mean, to call them left wing is just to completely rubbish the word, to divorce the term left wing of any meaning. And this is something that I'm writing about at the moment. Actually, I'm writing an article. People often use the term liberal, and liberal just means, classical liberalism. It's just it's this. But people use the term. It's right wing, right? It's on the right wing of the political spectrum. It's a capitalist economic spectrum, and yet people use it as synonymous with left. So people say liberal leftist. It's like saying capitalist communist or hot cold. These terms have meaning. So, I mean, I don't know how. Does that make sense? Do you get what I'm saying? Do you get my caveat?
Yes, but in my view, classical liberalism, it did change over time, and basically, for me at least, the left, they believe in a strong centralized government, to me at least, and with the right, they believe in a decentralized government. So for me, that's how I see left and right. I don't see it in terms of socialism or capitalism. I see it more in the basic sense of government setup. So I guess we'll have to agree to disagree on that. But even then,
how does it go into Islam?
Okay, well, basically this, the narrative is...
So the statist, the pro-repressive state, is saying that left means being pro-heavy government. So the pro-heavy government media is concocting a narrative of political correctness that says Islam has nothing to do.
No, I would say that they feed into it. They feed into it. Basically, this has nothing to do with Islam. Basically, this is what a lot of people believe. Like, for instance, Howard Dean, after these attacks, said, "Well, they're no more Muslim than I am," which is absolute bullshit. They were screaming, "Allahu Akbar!" Come on, man. I mean, see, this is the type of delusional type of thinking that exists, and for some reason, if people like me call it out, oh well, people tell me all the time, oh well, you're racist. I'm like, I'm brown. My parents are from India. How the hell are you going to call me racist?
Well, in fairness,
you know?
that doesn't mean you're not racist. I mean, there's racism in India towards different groups. But I get your point, right?
Okay,
but
that makes sense.
Understand, people flippantly throw around terms like Islamophobia and bigot and racist, and it can be frustrating. I get that. But exactly. I don't know. I don't know if I would. Well, I don't agree. From what I see, the media is overwhelmingly conservative. It's owned by very conservative people, and it's the most popular and read media is the conservative media. It's the most populist. It's the most out there. It's, you know what I mean. So it's I don't know. Additionally,
I can only speak for the States, and for what I see.
But the States is worse. The States is even more conservative than the rest of the world.
Oh no!
I mean, on every issue.
If we're talking about today, if we're talking about today, I would definitely disagree with that. I mean, I don't know. I just think if you look at today's public school systems, if you look at today's inner cities, it's not dominated by conservatives. In my view.
Sorry, we've been talking a lot. Yeah, what would you have to say, Salamat? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I know I'm sort of out of turn here, but I just wanted to just chime in. Remember that the States is a place where Sikhs and Catholics have been shot because they were mistaken for Muslims. There's definitely anti-Islamic attitudes there, and I don't see this supposed narrative that of the left, or I don't know, the politically correct, or whatever you would like to label this, is taking this foothold to renege Islam of any culpability in contributing to this incident or others.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely vouch for your first point. I mean, I'm a former Sikh myself, and I did apostatize a couple years back, so I can speak for that side of it about discrimination, all that stuff. But I mean, even beyond that fact, for me at least, it's about the narrative. Is that, are we going to call a spade, or are we going to try to go about it in some sort of cowardice way and blame it on mental illness? I heard a couple times for these attacks because of mental illness. The guy that shot up the Parliament in Canada was considered as a mentally disturbed person. I'm like, it's just.
But people say that about every shooter. That's said about every. I mean, every guy is got some mentally fucked lone wolf, blah blah blah. So I mean, again, I wouldn't attribute that to some sort of conspiracy or overarching narrative.
No, but this is the
ideology.
This is exactly what is happening. That the people are being labeled as such, and nobody is putting their finger on the core of the problem. And this is why I agree with this. We need to call a spade, and we need to be honest with ourselves. We need to say, all right, we cannot be politically correct all the time. I mean, if you abort a fetus, you are aborting a fetus. You are aborting something that will eventually grow into a child. Whether this will be a healthy child is a different story. But at the end of the day, you need to call the spade a spade. You say, yes, I am pro-abortion, and I need to say, yes, I am pro-life when it comes to the mother's life, and not the future, whatever. So you need to, at some stage, you need to name the things the way that they are. And you cannot just say, pussyfoot around, oh, well, this is a lump of cells. And you cannot say, well, this is a baby. You cannot do that. We need to be honest with these things. And to say that these are mentally handicapped people is just as dishonest as saying that this is only fueled by Islam. We need to actually physically put our fingers on the problem, and that is Islam is being used to indoctrinate the people and is being abused. And this is why I'm saying the imams for the last 30 years have been indoctrinating people, have radicalized people. That's why we have people like Hamza Tzortzis who are saying, well, we don't need capitalism. We don't need freedom of speech. We don't need that. We have our God. He is the typical product of this indoctrination effort. And this needs to be reversed. This needs to stop, and we need to say, well, we are human beings. We are not Muslims and Christians and Jews. We are human beings, and that's at the end of the day what is important.
Even
We've
beyond
also
that,
been joined. Oh, sorry, you go, and then I'll introduce some of you guys. Sorry, continue.
I'm just saying, even beyond that point, like, if you look at the mainstream theology, and I mean, if you just go to any bookstore, Islamic bookstore, and you can find the works of Maududi, and he is clear cut. He says that the point of jihad is to destroy all states and governments. He says this is the goal of Islam, because Islam.
Well, the installation of the Islamic rule, yes.
Exactly. So, like, when people tell me that, like, the faith was spread by the sword, I say that's kind of a half truth. We can say that Islamic law was spread by the sword, but, like, we can't say Islam itself was spread by the sword. Indeed, like, after the government is set up, obviously, we all know what happens to, like, the non-Muslims when they, like, have to pay jizya, they have to be subdued, they have to be treated as basically second-class citizens, etc., etc. And to deny this and to somehow, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for.
Obfuscate, apologize
yes,
for.
exactly. Obfuscate this.
Sugar candy coated.
Exactly, and like this, like watered down Islam that's being preached today, I think is an absolute farce and like an absolute fallacy, and we need to for Obama to come out and say that ISIS is not Islamic. I mean, could there be a bigger load of horseshit?
Yeah, I'll agree that I'll agree that that's fatuous. Hold on, Salsa, can you mute your microphone, because we're getting feedback from your mic and it's distracting. Sorry, Salim, what would you have to say?
I was about to say I do agree with the whole there's like calling dry ash non-Islamic and all that. I actually agree, and I also do agree that that more Islam seems to be Islam as a whole, if you can count it as a whole. I don't really think you can, but Islam as a whole is more backwards than Christianity for a number of cultural and geopolitical and historical reasons. But also remember that you can still also find dominionist works amongst Christian Christian bookstores too. I agree that in terms of say I don't know how to say it, ideas that are out there, there are some worse ones held by more people in terms of Islam, but in terms of abhorrent works in general, no, I don't think Islam has the monopoly at all.
Also, just on a historical note, the Sharia was not really spread by the sword. Sharia was usually not really implemented throughout Islamic history.
Called Sharia, the principle was there. Come on.
Well, not even. I mean, it really just. I mean, different Muslim societies across time and space differed radically in their various. Which is why you've had these recurring movements to impose Sharia on Muslims, because Muslims just generally didn't. So the Muwahhidun, killed, what was it, like hundreds of thousands, like a shocking number of huge numbers of Maliki Muslims, because the Malikis were following their juristic traditions and not the true Sunnah according to the, so it's just a point of, it's just a historical minutiae.
But in Spain they were.
You can see that.
No. Spain, they weren't. They were not following the Sharia. That's the hilarious thing. In Spain, Berbers were discriminated against by Arabs. Well, Islam's actually for all ethnicities. It's not supposed to be just a purely. This is post-Umayyad, obviously. So Berbers were discriminated against, going against the sort of the equalitarianism of brotherhood of Islam kind of thing. Wine was the second most commonly grown crop in Spain, Muslim Spain, and there was a tremendous drinking culture.
No, I'm not talking about that.
Violation.
No.
What are you talking about?
Political. I'm talking about the political Sharia. I'm talking about the way that they were subdued. I'm talking about the effects of jizya. I'm talking about the effects
even then.
It was in Spain.
most of the doctors, or at least earlier doctors of Muslim Spain, were Jews, for example.
Yes,
and
they had to pay taxes to the
well,
Muslims
no,
because they were Muslims.
The point is, they had positions of authority and power. The dhimmi system was very often ignored or subverted by just generally speaking. So again, it's people. Like I was saying previously, religion is just a part of culture. The culture determines the religion, how the religion is
I'll go with that, yeah.
and
But
how
we're
it's
going off on a
implemented.
tangent, I'm sorry.
All right. But in regards to what TJ was saying, I agree that to say it's un-Islamic, that kind of, it's just a meaningless statement, right?
Yes,
it's
exactly the
that
point.
kind of
That
stuff
is-
is just.
yeah.
And of course you can, to say it has no basis in Islamic scripture, again, that's rubbish. Of course there's basis for it.
Yes.
And you can point out the various hadith and the juristic texts that say X, Y, and Z. I agree on that. Where I disagree is I don't think that Islam in and of itself has agency. I don't think that it causes. I think that it's the political environment that causes people to draw upon Islamic tradition in their militant behavior. And I think that's. And if you'd like, I can go into extreme detail on this, and also throughout history, looking at how this has actually been the case throughout history routinely. In and of itself, Islam, even, so I cited the Muwahhidun before, right? The Wahhabis, the Murabitun, the Muwahhidun, these puritanical movements who say, in the name of this, Sharia, we're implementing the Sharia, we're forcing everyone to be by our rule. But again, look at the pattern. It's these nomadic, rural, arid environment groups following the same kind of violent behavior that these sorts of groups have always followed since time immemorial, right? So it's not surprising that people living in an arid environment that's short of resources therefore become militaristic because there's necessarily a fight over resources, and therefore that a militant and violent culture produces a militant and violent interpretation of their religious traditions, as part of their culture. So again, it's in and of itself, Islam doesn't really have that much agency, like any other religion. It's entirely in the eyes of the beholder, and the categories and hermeneutics of the individual are shaped by their environment. So hopefully that makes sense. Sorry, I've talked too much. So Celsa, you still with us? Welcome to the show. What do you thoughts?
Hang on, was Salam would finish? I think I.
Oh, sorry. I just have got so many people now that I'm trying to. All right. So, did you have anything else to say, Salamut, before we go on to Salsa? So?
I can't remember anymore.
I'm sorry.
This is my superpower, verbiage. Anyway,
But actually, to the point you were saying though, I have heard I have said something in the past which sort of summarizes what you said, and that was that generally people don't follow the religion follows the people.
Yeah, it's empirically the case. It's just demonstrable. But that's my opinion. All right. Juice, we've got you've got the audio from the live stream playing. It was coming through your mic. Okay. Well, we've been joined by two more people now: Juice for Jesus and Vegzuhula. I can't remember how to pronounce the name. Sorry. But before we get to you guys, Salsa. What are your thoughts on all this? You haven't spoken yet. Are you with us? Salsa Havoc. Okay, your microphone is not currently working, Salsa. You'll have to... Oh, there you go. Are you with us? Yes,
Hello.
welcome to the show.
Hi. With the whole thing, which I was listening to, which I've only started 10 minutes ago because I just woke up. My thoughts are with the whole aspect between looking for a cause on what makes people become more religious. I think it's to do with different time eras, meaning recently, in the past 200, 300 years, some people have attributed that to the rise of the whole concept of fundamentalism, which apparently started in the 19th century. That, according to some historians, was started by the Christian movement. Now, I was talking to a friend the other day about it, and it was an interesting debate whether the whole Islamic ideology is fundamental in nature, or if it just started to be fundamental, because the way Islam spread originally was very political, and you could see that there was a fundamental political part of how it started. What are your thoughts?
I think this is generalizing a lot, because I think the actual problem is a lot. It's smaller. Okay, you have smaller cells, and now saying that everything is fundamental or it's based in fundamentalism, I think is also not the right way of doing it, because this is a too broad a spectrum, I think.
Yeah. Well, I sort of agree with that, but for me, it's like you can have different strands of type of modern fundamentalism, but for the whole
Okay, until Salsa gathers his thoughts, who was next in the line? Was it?
We've just been joined by Juice for Jesus. So, welcome to the show. Whilst, if you can hear us, Salsa, your microphone's gone off, or you stopped talking. So, whilst, just in case, Juice for Jesus, what are your thoughts on all this?
Hi guys, I actually called in for requests to. Because I would like to know, where does this prohibition of images of Muhammad actually come from? I think it would be useful to...
I thought you were calling in to demand a fatwa.
Before we get to that, can I ask a Klingschor question?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
You said just 3 minutes ago that something like within Islam itself, etc., is this and that, and just the justical system came later, blah blah blah. The thing I want to know is about, you said in Islam itself, within, but a month ago or 2 months ago, I don't remember quite well, you said one other thing, like Islam is for you what the Muslims make of it. So which is it now? Is it a consent? Is it a thing within itself in Islam, or is what makes Islam, or is what makes Islam?
Today, I understand. Today I'm just using Islam as a rough heuristic. I would say that what I said before, religion only exists in the eyes of the religionist. I fully stand by that. I think that's just empirically the case. But as a rough heuristic, I'll refer to, the Hadith and the Quran and the body of legal texts. I'll just generalize that as Islam or Islamic tradition. Does that make sense? It's just a heuristic to be able to talk about this, to a lay audience, for example. So if I want to be more specific, I specify the Hadith, say, the reports contained in the Sirah attributed to Ibn Ishaq, right, which contains various narratives, or various hadith in Bukhari talk about, was it Ka'ab bin al-Ashraf, who was murdered by some of Muhammad's warriors for being a satirist or something like that. So I get the confusion, but it's just a rough heuristic if I say Islam generally at the moment. Does that make sense?
Okay, I accept that.
All right, then, but now, Jews for Jesus asked a very good question. That is, where does this whole Muhammad thing come from? And the answer is it doesn't. It doesn't. It's one of these things again where it's down to interpretation, because the Quran does not mention anything like that at all. So it's not there. Now you have to go into the Sunnah and the Sirah, and there it's a little bit different. Sorry?
I was just Hadith, yeah, and I think it's also like a cultural connotation with the idea of making representations of living creatures and stuff.
It's like show. It's hubris.
It's again the interpretation, because you have things like, for example, an angel will not enter the house in which is a picture depicting a human being or something with eyes. So you're not allowed. You're not supposed. Well, not allowed. You're not supposed to have anything with like an animal or a human being as a picture in the house. Otherwise, angels will not enter it. So going from there, they said the picture of a human being is not allowed. The second thing is that you're not supposed to have any idols next to God. And if you draw a picture of Muhammad, then it could be that some people will idolize Muhammad. Well, they're doing it anyway, but what is going to happen is maybe that they will then turn and pray towards Muhammad because he is the closest thing that they have. God is too far away. Muhammad was created as a figurehead to show that a human being can go through all the rituals and handle them. So if a human being like Muhammad could do it, so could anybody else. So there's different aspects. Now, all this is interpretation, all this is just conjecture. In Shia, for example, they don't have this. They don't have this restriction. You can have little trinkets. You can have reminders of your belief. You can have all this. That is why most of the pictures that you have today, which are still floating around, are of Shia origins.
But not the historical ones. A lot of the really beautiful Turkish depictions of Muhammad.
Yeah, that's like 15th, 14th, 15th century. Ottoman, yeah.
And stuff, and so Ottoman, yeah. Which again really underscores the point. I think the normative view amongst traditional jurists was that you're not meant to have figurative art or representational art based upon those various hadith that you were citing, and yet Muslims flouted this and drew pictures of Muhammad and drew art and all these scenes from the Sirah. So again, it's culture dictates whether or not people actually follow or give a shit about the laws, which I find quite interesting. And you know the earliest picture, you know that early coin, the gold coin that from Abdul Malik? You must have seen it. It's very famous.
Yes.
Stop. Have you seen it as well? Let me get some affirmation here.
Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah.
Right. That's not Abdul Malik. Apparently, that's actually Muhammad. It's a common misconception.
Yeah, nobody really knows. But this is a
legend. Well, the idea is that I read an academic article that talks about this at one point, and it's just a common misconception. It's because it's meant to be on. He's meant to be on a level with, say, Jesus, because all the previous art often showed Jesus or something like that, and so it's very probable that this is actually meant to be Muhammad and not Abdul Malik himself. Anyway, I just thought that's quite interesting because it's quite early. All right, so we've also been joined by HOGC. Welcome to the
Jews for Jesus. Have we answered your question?
Oh, sorry. My goodness. Yeah, Jews for Jesus. Are you content with our answer?
It left him speechless.
But
he's actually left the group.
But yeah, I mean, I was about to say something before my electric conked out.
Coil means. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but as I was saying before I got rudely interrupted, would you say that Dominionism is fundamental to the socio-political aspect of Islam?
Sorry, I don't quite get that question. Is dominion? What do you mean by dominion?
No, it's a dominionism. That is so.
Dominionism, as in the Christian premillennialism idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's a premillennialist idea. That is, okay, so you know the 1,000 years of peace that Christ is supposed to bring, yeah?
Yeah.
There's two ideas around that. Oh, there's actually more. There's also non-millennialists, but there's postmillennialism premillennialism where Christ comes before the 1,000 years of peace, and there's postmillennialism. I'm sorry, did I call it it's postmillennialism, where there's 1,000 years and then he will
tongue
come.
twister.
Yeah, I know. And post and pre, bloody Latin. Anyway, so yeah, Dominionism is an ideology centered around the idea that the 1,000 years comes and then Jesus returns. So the ideology is we must establish a global Christian theocracy, pretty much, and maintain 1,000 years of peace to bring on the apocalypse, pretty much.
But
Yeah.
but like, would you not say that when Islam first started, that they've sort of adopted that same sort of mentality?
I'm not aware of any. Klingschor, you might be able to correct me on this, but I'm not aware of any ideology where like you establish a global Islamic thing and then some apocalypse will happen.
Well, I mean, talking generally, again generalizing, there is, I mean, Islamic tradition does have the apocalypse in mind. The idea amongst I think the Abbasiyun, the medieval Abbasid dynasty, was that the final Abbasid caliph would hand his authority to the Mahdi or to Jesus or something. So I mean, that has been a sort of a current within say Muslim religiosity and religious traditions. But I don't know how explicit that is involved in modern day militant Islamic groups. I don't know to what extent they are apocalyptic. It's not my area of expertise.
Okay, Salsa, does that answer your question?
Sort of. But
okay, can we move on to the next one, because we've got a lot of people today, and I don't want to spend like half an hour on one topic today. Is that possible?
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, if you want to go deeper into this, it's just that today, because of the current events, I think it's a bit hectic. So
Yeah.
if you want to like really go into it, if we have a quieter session, like I suppose next week again, then please by all means do come back, and then we'll talk about it some more. Is that okay with you?
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, super. Thank you. Now, next was oh shit, he's left. I thought he was going to go.
No, we've been joined by HOGC.
Oh, hello. Hello? Hello.
Yeah, we
Welcome
got
to the
you.
show. Yeah.
Oh, I can hear. Did you watch the news where the dead brother, the brother of the dead cop, he made a speech?
No, I did not see that. I just heard a couple. Salsa, do you think you can mute your microphone, because we're getting feedback through your microphone, through the speaker microphone set? Thanks. No, I don't go for CNN talks to the family of the pilot or something. I don't like this. This is stupid. It doesn't help anything. So no, I have not watched it. Is there anything significant that came from that?
I mean, it's mostly appeasing to the Muslims. He was, of course, emotionally wrecked, whatever. But he said that to all racist Islamophobes and anti-Semitists, I think. I don't know what it had to do with the shooting, but all I want to point out that I have been bothered is that they come out with saying it's not Islamic, or they were not Muslims, the terrorists, which I disagree with.
Is that what
I'm
brother
glad
said?
that now he said that he was pointing out they were not Muslim or Islamic.
Yeah, and that's exactly
although
my
I
point.
find that, although I find that annoying, I don't find it all that surprising. To dissociate I understand. Sorry?
I wasn't finished. But I'm glad that
sorry. Continue
condemning
talking.
these actions. No, I was just about to say that I'm glad they are coming out condemning it, but they're also adding a false statement. And the statement was that it's not Islamic and they are not Muslims.
Oh, okay. Right, thanks for the clarification. Right.
Yeah. So, sorry if I interrupted. I was just going to say, I was just going to say that, although it's no less like dishonest or anything like that, I don't find it particularly surprising. There's a lot of you find it's not a very Muslim thing. It's just a very human thing to try and dissociate some abhorrent part of a collective identity that you share. So you'll find a lot of modern socialists and modern communists will say that the Soviet Union, really defensively, Soviet Union wasn't actually communist. And you'll say a lot of Christians, the Catholics and their history, they're not real Christians. So
the Pope is the Antichrist, actually.
The Pope is the Antichrist.
They worship Marian.
But this is why critical.
But the whole it's un-Islamic. Personally, I'm not too peeved about that.
But you should be. It's dishonest. It's hypocritical. It's wrong. Everybody should jump down somebody else's throat who says it is not Islam, it is not Islamic, it is not this, it is not a Muslim, it is not. You should kill them immediately. You should shove your fist down that person's throat and tell them.
But I don't do it any more than I do when someone says, "Oh, that's un-Christian. Oh, that's unsocialist. That's not a real conservative. That's not really Australian. That's not really American. That's not real freedom. Blah 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 blah."
Can I just make an example? Because in South Africa we used to have something called apartheid. Okay, which means that when
it was a great thing.
When I was younger, there were benches. Like if you were waiting for a train or a bus or something, there were benches which had a label on them, not for whites only, not for blacks. I don't have to repeat this in Afrikaans. So there were entrances into the train station or something. We said for blacks and for whites. Now, if I tell a cop who now goes because he finds a black entering the station through a whites-only entrance, and he beats the living daylight out of this poor black guy, do I tell this guy, "Oh, you're a naughty, naughty, naughty cop"? Or do I say, all cops must respect human rights of all humans, abolishing apartheid? Which approach do I take? Do I tell the cop, no, maybe, this is not really the right way to handle? No, I need to go to the root and say, this guy has the same human right as everybody else has. And there is a difference between telling the cop, no, you are being a naughty cop, or if I tell the guy, listen, you are violating human rights. And this is the difference between Islam now having one person. I say, it's actually not so much Islamic, it's just this guy is a mentally deranged person. No, it is not. I have to say it is Islam which needs to fix the problem. Muslims need to take responsibility and tell their own people, like the cops in South Africa finally got the hang of it and told their own people, no, Kobus, you cannot, you cannot go and kill another black just because you feel like it, because they got away with it, because it was apartheid. That was wrong, and the same approach you need to have today in Islam, where people tell them it is wrong to do that. That's it. That's my whole point. And I'm going to repeat this until I'm blue in the face.
I don't think there's any difference. I don't think that what Salamat was saying was contradicting that. His point was
no.
I agree with both of what you've said, because I think they're compatible. On the one hand, you should unequivocally condemn everyone who does something that you think is shit. I totally agree. On the other hand, the only point that Salamat was making was that you shouldn't be especially, outraged at a Muslim saying it's un-Islamic, because this is very common. Every group does it. So I'm going to be just as annoyed at a Christian who says, oh, this is un-Christian when someone does something you know, as I am at someone who's a Muslim who says that, or whatever. Do you see what I mean? So I actually think the two views.
But we need to be vocal about this. We can't let them get away with it.
But
Sure.
the whole "you're not a real X" is it's so common that in some contexts it's
No
almost
true
lost its
Scotsman.
meaning. Like, for example, I'm not a militant anti-theist, so I've been told I'm not a real atheist. Wow, cool, nice, right. It doesn't mean anything.
Well, no, like, I mean, for me at least, like, you know, being an anti-theist for me, because, you know, for me at least, it's like, you know, when people, like, I mean, it's not that I don't think it's true, but it's that I don't want it to be true. I don't want there to be an unalterable, unchallengeable authority who can convict me of thought crime. You know, I think that's what it means, you know, to be an anti-theist. Is that not only do you think it's not true, but, like, you know, you wish it wasn't true.
Then I'm not an anti-theist, because that's horrible. Like, it's like I don't want lions to kill gazelles.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant.
I'm talking about anti-theism as in against all theism, like anti-religion, right? Like, I want all religions to die and their remnants in a museum. That sort of anti-theism.
No. For me, it's that, like, you know, the person that says that like, you know, they're like, you know, some sort of deist, I say okay, but, like, the person that says I'm a theist has to prove that this guy.
I'm not an anti-theist. That's horrible. Like, I don't want lions.
What kind of comparison is that?
Juice, we can hear the recording playing through your microphone. You should mute when you come to the call. Mute the live stream. Otherwise, we'll be able to hear a repeat and an echo. Sorry, continue, HOGC.
Hello?
Yes, sorry, continue. Yeah. HOGC, are you there?
Oh, okay. I have a question. It's a bit a long time ago. It's about Danish cartoons. From the Muslim side of the media, was there so much a condemning as it were from now? Like, did it come out and we condemn this? This is not Islamic as the or as 2006, I think, the Danish cartoons were released, and a lot of violence happened because of the cartoons.
No idea. I have no idea.
I am aware of backlash in the Arab world against what happened in France. Yes, there was actually a page which collected a bunch of newspaper clippings with Arab responses against the against what happened in France. Yes, that.
He's talking about Denmark. He's talking about Denmark. He's talking about the Danish.
Oh, he's talking about Denmark. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. That's a while back.
In Denmark,
I think the point is something different. I think the point you're trying to make is that there's a lot more outrage today than there was 6 years ago, or 8 years ago. And this is exactly the point. Yes, there is. A lot more Muslims are now aware of what is happening, whereas 6 years ago they just ignored it. They said, "Well, something is happening," and then they went and killed 100 people just because of those cartoons. They burned embassies. They did, and a lot of Muslims this time are taking it in their stride. They're saying, yes, they're drawing funny little pictures, and yes, it's an assault on the front, and it's I don't know, insult to. I don't know how you can insult a dead person. Yes, they are saying that, but a lot more. So there is progress in Islam, and I think this is the point that you're getting towards. That yes, there is a difference in approach. Was it 2006? Is it that long ago? To those days than it is to today. Yes, there's a huge difference. There's a lot more outrage from the Muslim side than there was a couple of years ago. But there's also a lot more saying, no, it has nothing to do with Islam than you had in those days.
Hello? Actually, it was in 2005, so it's 10 years ago.
Is it that long? I can't believe it. I was not interested in Islam at that stage, so I don't even recall this so well. I just remember thinking, why is it that there are so many Muslims who go crazy about some stupid pictures in a tiny little paper in a tiny country somewhere on the planet? I couldn't understand that at the time. I didn't know what to make of it. And then I saw that so many people died, and embassies went up, and we were burning and looting and ranting and raving just because of some funny pictures. And I thought, Jesus, why are these people so stupid? That's all I was thinking at the time. I can't even remember. 10 years ago. Wow.
Although, in fairness, there was like a very long... When the cartoons came out, there was very little reaction, and actually took a long, concerted political campaign by certain imams to actually foment that kind of reaction over a couple of months, I think. So again, it's not in a vacuum. I noticed someone said in the comments, is it just me, or is Klingschor softening his views on Islam? I find that quite funny. All I do is change my views to reflect the data as I understand it. So the more information I accrue, the more I'll try and change my views to reflect the evidence that I have. So all I'm saying is what the evidence is suggesting as I've researched it. So I find it quite funny. It's as if there's like a dogma, like you have to be 100 points angry at Islam, and if you're less, it's like a quota of anti-Islam rage that I'm supposed to have, and if I'm like reneging on that quota, I guess I'm softening my views on Islam. I guess I love Al-Qaeda now. I mean, come on.
Thanks for answering my question that I asked once or 2 weeks ago.
What question?
The answer you just gave was my question.
Oh, I'm responding to a question by someone called Random Murtad.
Oh, okay. Ask something similar.
Oh, sorry. I didn't. I apologize. I didn't see your question. Sorry.
But Klingschor.
Yes, also.
Right. Well, I'm actually in the same camp as you. I do feel that a lot of
the delusional Islamophiliac camp, the Islam-loving PC Brigade. Welcome aboard. It's great. We get ice creams every Sunday. So.
How many Imam peers have you been stroking?
It's really great to be on this side, except you don't get any bacon.
Yeah, and I can't drink anymore because obviously I'm all halal now or something. So I'm being really sorry. I apologize. Please continue, Salsa. I've derailed you.
As I was saying, I do feel that a lot of the backlash that Islam has been getting is sort of has been unwarranted because, like, for example, what we see here, especially in the media, who will only like to portray a particular set of narratives, and if you were to compare it to the ground, and like the whole priorities that people see is actually wrong because people think that people seem to think that that the religion and that's like that religion is the only thing that matters to Muslims, but when you look at the ground, the most important thing is actually to survive, is to put food on the table, to pay the bills, to have shelter for them and their kids, and like these sort of elements are sort of not like said at all in any fashion, and because of that, it sort of makes like the whole clash of cultures seem to like for them to be completely evil. I think
there's a lack of nuance, you might say, in the analysis.
Yeah, exactly. And because of that, like you can't really be surprised about the amount of hatred Islam really gets. But like for me, it's like even if you do disagree with it, I don't really see the point of actually using that as the benchmark for a scapegoat. But that's just me.
Now, just a quick question. You're an ex-Muslim, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you live amongst Muslims? Do you have Muslim family around you?
I've got Muslim friends, but I'm currently independent.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Lucky son of a bitch.
We've been rejoined by Vegzur. Oh, before I go on, did you want to say anything else before I bring it back to another guest, Salsa?
No.
All right, we've been rejoined by Vegzur Hola, I think.
Yes, call me Ike.
Ike. All right, I'm just gonna try Ike. Okay, my pronunciation's obviously not very good. Ike, what do you have to say?
You didn't talk about what's in the Quran. Why you don't people what's in the Quran about the issue of Muhammad and is he allowed to be depicted by etc. Should I mention some verses from the Quran so that people can understand it? In Surah 41:6, he had to say, God say to him, say you are mere human and just to bring the Islam, blah blah blah. The same goes in Surah 1810. It starts in the same. Say say I'm mere human and I have to bring that there is only one God, etc. That's the two verses about him only be a human. And the third important verse is in Surah 236. You don't make a difference between the prophets, the messengers. So if a Muslim want to defend this whole thing and to say that is not Islam, etc., they should bring these verses that I just mentioned and say every Christian should also take off the depiction of Jesus in their churches, etc. If they want to be like to have a line, a strict line. That's what I wanted to mention. So these two verses, these three verses, are very important to see that the Muslims don't mention them because exactly what's in it. They love Muhammad. They do make difference between Muhammad and Jesus and Moses and etc. They do somehow idolatry himself, and because they are so weak, like somehow like Stopspamming say, they don't want a picture of Muhammad because maybe they would make the same thing like the Christian and pray to Muhammad, even if it's in the Quran that you can only get forgiveness through the messenger. That's also one thing. That's just what I wanted to tell everybody.
Cool, thanks for sharing. Who hasn't spoken for a while? Abu Mulhid, you haven't spoken for a while. What are your thoughts thus far? Do you have anything else to?
Well, I'm actually been doing other things, so I haven't heard everything that you're talking about. There was one guy that was talking about whether or not like jihadists believe in like some apocalyptic thing. I could have some comments on that because I know they do have. They talk a lot about like Dajjal, and they talk a lot about like Jesus will come back and the Mahdi and so on. So yes, they do. But maybe we should talk about that the next time. And then I had some comments on last week's Hadith of the day, but I don't know if you have time for that this week. Maybe it's this Charlie thing all the way.
Right. Juice for Jesus, you haven't spoken for a while either. What are your thoughts?
Oh, if anybody can hear me, we just had a toaster explosion.
I do hear you. I saw that you left and rejoined.
Well, a toaster. See, I guess it's the.
No,
this follow-up attack.
There was a loud
This
bang.
one is coming after you.
An ant, a jihadist ant, has wired up a toaster.
You didn't hear. I think it was instantaneous that this thing exploded, and then I was gone, and everything was down until I put the switch, the fuse. So I don't know if you still heard the bang or if this was already gone.
What kind of potato do you use?
What kind of what?
Potato.
Potato? No, it was a toaster.
Yeah, so a potato.
But yeah.
I don't get that.
But
A really bad piece of equipment is sometimes known as a potato. As in,
Oh, I've
like,
never heard
counts.
that. Oh, okay. No.
Like with a really bad count. Like,
Scott was born in 1805, okay, which we cultural references.
There was no electricity or lights or anything in those days, no. I didn't know that it was called a toaster.
Stop. Your new name's now grandfather.
What was the Boer truckers like?
But the anti-stop fans have finally prayed for his toaster.
Yeah.
Destroyed.
That's right. See? God is real, Stop. Criticized him and then your toaster explodes.
So what, do
Stop
I pray
attacking
towards
his
my toaster
Uber.
every morning now?
Stop. Yeah. Stop. Just stop attacking God's Uma. Just stop. He's sending you a message.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what I disrupted now because I didn't. hear the
I was
last
just
2 minutes.
asking Juice for Jesus what his thoughts were on this because he hadn't spoken in a while. Can you hear us, Juice? Is it me or is his microphone not working?
No, it's because he says in the comments that his Hangouts has crashed. I don't know if it's still the case.
Okay. You're not connected with us at the moment in terms of your audio, Juice. So when that's fixed, give us a hoy. And in the meantime, TJ, you haven't spoken for a while. What do you have any thoughts thus far? Or?
Well, I mean, we've talked about the issues at hand, but my question is, how do we defend free press? How do we defend free speech? I mean, Islam is an idea, and to me, no idea is above criticism. So, my question is, why is it that when there's a cartoon of the Pope, that the Pope doesn't send anybody to kill the cartoonist or to kill the guy that's that's criticizing? I mean, I don't see any Jain suicide bombers. I don't see any Tibetan Buddhist suicide bombers. Why is this only inherent in one particular ideology at this moment in time as we speak? I mean, can we call a spade like I said before? I mean, how do we tackle this issue without being called racist, without being called bigots, without being called Islamophobic? I mean, when we bring up these things like for instance, dimitude, non-Muslims living inside the Islamic State. How can we?
Honesty. Just be honest. Just be straight to the point and do exactly what I just said. Just use the Quran and show what it is that we are criticizing. I use the Quran. I try and use the Quran exclusively because I don't believe in using Hadith all the time. I try and avoid it. You can't always, but you try. So you just show the people, these are the facts, this is what we're talking about, and now compare reality. That is it. So you compare the claims with reality, show the discrepancies, and there you have the result. And then you can call a spade, and you know that you are being perfectly honest. And if somebody doesn't agree, show them they're wrong and show them how they're being dishonest and why they're being dishonest. That's the only way that I can see that we can tackle this.
No, because I feel like
I agree with Stop. Oh, sorry, you go. Sorry.
No, I'm saying if somebody can Google chapter 9 verse 29, my browser's kind of messing up on me, but how do you translate chapter 9 verse 29 in a metaphorical or in a non-literal way? How? It's clear.
That's exactly the point. You can't. So you have to agree with that. You have to be honest.
It's clear. I mean, look at chapter 9 verse 5. The verse of the sword. I mean, referring to polytheists, Ibn Kathir, in my view, probably the greatest of all of the, commentators, says
one of the
polytheists,
greatest. At that point, he was the greatest. But Ibn Kathir is one of the most notable and
authoritative, for sure. Yeah. So he says that polytheists should be fought throughout the earth. So is it a coincidence that my country of India probably suffered the most under the under the Islamic rule. I mean, one historian, I believe his name was K.S. Lal, Kishori Saran Lal was his name, and he estimated that between the first Islamic invasions from Afghanistan, so from the year 1000 to the year 1525, he estimated that between 60 and 80 million Indians lost their lives.
I commented, I sent a message to Spamming up about this.
And so for me, I mean, is it a coincidence that India is the land of mushrikun and polytheists, and somehow they got the worst brunt of it? I mean, is that a coincidence, or am I just, following the dots and trying to be logical?
You can say that. The only problem is, I tried looking at this. There are such scarce, accounts of what actually happened. I've tried collecting this. Then I decided to go into Spain because there was more data available for Spain than there was for India. Because in India you have so many conflicting accounts. You have so many different numbers. You have so many horrendous stories, but you don't know whether they are emotional or whether they are fact-based. And this is why I've always shied away from looking at India, because it is such a huge mess of different stories and of different people saying different things. So yes, you are right, because the polytheists are being considered as being existent more in India than they were in Spain, for example. And it could very well be that the polytheists, Muhammad was a polytheist, please. I mean, he was pagan. Just as Jesus was a Jew. So, we can't go around these things. But you're not allowed to say it. You're not allowed to say that Muhammad was a pagan. But he was. So, I mean, and then you go into India, and the people there were definitely perceived as being polytheists. So it could be that it was even worse. But I think it has more to do that you had more gold and stuff in India than you had in Spain. I mean, what they were looting from the temples in India is horrible, and how many people they killed there, it was horrible.
Yeah,
the amount of gold they took was beyond belief. But there's a lot of things you've said that I just want to quickly get onto. The first thing is, how do we not be bigoted, or how do we get around that? It depends what you mean by bigot, because a lot of people don't understand what it really means to be racist or bigoted. So for me, bigotry arises from being wrong. It's not bigoted if it's correct. So if you say, God, I don't know, what's a racist trope? I don't know.
Trope?
Yeah. What's a racist? What's a common racist claim, right? The Jews control the world, right?
Black men are more likely to commit petty crime. I don't know.
All Asians are the same to me.
Let's take. Hold on, salsa. We can. I think there's. Right. So take, for example, the claim that the claim that, I don't know, Jews control the world, the elders of Zion. That's bad because it's wrong. It's false, right? So you're unfairly demonizing a group based upon misinformation. So that's what makes something racist, or and even if something is partially accurate, right? Say that there's a common trend. The problem is when you generalize that to all people. So I think for me, bigotry arises from when you have a false stereotype about someone based upon wrong information, or a view of people unfairly demonizing people, unfairly, incorrectly, based upon rubbish, based upon false information. So is it racist to say all Italians eat pasta? Well, perhaps, because that's a massive generalization. You don't know. Whereas, is it racist to say pasta is a common dish in Italy? No, because it's true. It is a common dish in Italy. Do you get what I mean? So if that's how the way I define racism and bigotry, and by that definition, all you have to do is just be correct. All you have to do is just be able to show evidence and not generalize unfairly, and just go proportionate to what the evidence says. Does that make sense?
What about the factor of not changing your mind?
Not changing? Who not changing?
The bigot. For me, the bigot is more about not changing your mind.
That's exactly right.
Stubbornly...
See, if they continue to cling to false information, then their views are obviously erroneous, and therefore
continuing to and not being able to change your mind.
I think too that bigotry could be summarized as just intolerance towards a collective identity. And by intolerance, I mean they will not tolerate, once again, evidence to say otherwise. Yeah, so I guess just intolerance of a collective identity.
Reactionary intolerance. Yeah. Or see, but you see, I'll see. Like, I'm intolerant to a pedophile, for example. I think that's a justified intolerance. Whereas the intolerance of bigotry is usually based upon irrational fears, irrational lies about demographic and immigrant.
Pedophilia would be a good one because, like, for example, pedophilia isn't actually child molestation. Pedophilia is a paraphilia.
So that's true. That's true. Let me rephrase that and say child molesters. Okay, swap out the term pedophile because you're right. That is actually a very complex issue.
Isn't he mentally ill?
Well, regardless, let's just say child abuse, right? I'm intolerant of child abuse, right? So that's in and of itself, intolerance is not necessarily a bad thing. It's when it's based upon nothing or rubbish.
Yeah, but it's not so. But like to not tolerate child molestation is completely different to say, I don't know, trying to profile child molesters as a collective.
Sure. I agree.
And that part would be bigotry.
Yeah.
So then, coming to my second point, then, how would we defend freedom of the press? How do we
go
about that?
It depends from person to person. For me personally, I want to be able to say we can say anything, but I also I'm not. I don't feel like being crude because that's just my personal preference. And so I not necessarily want to draw Muhammad having sex with a camel or something like that because I just don't think. I just think it's blasé. So for me, like I remember a while ago I participated in Draw Muhammad Day and I just drew Muhammad, just his face with the turban. That's it. Nothing, no horns, no nothing. It's just, So I think if it's just that's the way I do it personally.
So how do you know it was Muhammad?
But
I wrote Muhammad underneath it.
This is exactly the point. Nobody knows what he looked like. So what is the point of doing any of this?
But something's thought-provoking or intelligent. I think that's especially the best way to do it. Doing something crude is sure, you're expressing your freedom, but it's also just it's crude. So it's up to the individual, I suppose.
But how would you differentiate between freedom of speech and hate speech? For example,
No.
The same thing. I think that
come on.
Freedom of speech covers hate speech.
No, we have definitions. We have definitions what free speech is, and we have a list of the 8 things which are not allowed, which go and contradict any human values or human rights. So we know exactly what is allowed and what is not. It has been defined, it's been written down. So I don't think we should go into free speech and what if this and we have definitions for every single thing that we can do. The same with the shouting fire in a crowded theater. That is well established. It's ancient old. We've been there. We know it. So no, don't question that, please, and don't start getting now into individual examples.
Okay. Salim, were you going to say something, sorry?
No, Stop kind of covered it.
Okay. Okay, so the next thing is the point of the massacre in India.
Hang on. I don't think we've answered the question yet. What is the free speech that if we define it in the media? What is that? What do we consider that? What is the press allowed to do and what is it not allowed to do? And there, I think Klingschor also nailed and said, well, it's personal preference because free speech means you can say anything that you want, even if you are crude. If the press wants to be crude and wants to do that and wants to offend people, it is allowed to offend people. It is whether you feel offended that makes the difference. This is where the personal aspect comes in. You cannot insult, you cannot offend a book. You cannot insult, you cannot offend Muhammad. It has to be a living person who feels offended. Because if I offend Napoleon, he cannot feel offended. I cannot insult Napoleon because he cannot feel insulted. So for me, it's the personal aspect is that makes it an offense or makes it offending or makes it insulting. So without the personal victim, there is no such thing. And this is stupid. If people say, yeah, but they have insulted the Prophet. No, they have not. The guy's dead for 1,000. Well, he's never existed. But I mean, the character, the figurehead. I mean, it's been dead. So you can't offend or insult something that has been dead for decades and centuries.
I think I think I'm pretty liberal when it comes to free speech, with the exception of incitement of violence and intentional deception.
There's 8 different examples, because you can find a lot more. So they are defined. You could look them up. Come on, if anybody can find the list of these things.
Well, what are they? I've never encountered this list.
Well, I don't know them from the top of my head. It's exactly this: that incitement to violence, incitement to hatred, like. I don't know what it is called. There are categories, like shouting fire in a theater is a category, and these.
Oh, sorry, you can finish.
No, I was actually. Those things are written down. You just need to go and exceptions, or the 8 things not allowed, or exceptions to freedom of speech.
Sure. But those things are. I know, get said to death, but up to interpretation. I mean, for example, it's well
really.
okay. It's well okay to express your sentiment as a neo-Nazi in the US. Try doing that in Germany.
You can. There are neo-Nazis in Germany.
I'm a moderate Nazi.
Moderate Nazi. Moderate Nazi. I mean, Nazi is just a political term, all right? It's like Islam. This is what we need to understand.
Fine. Well, the National Socialist ideology that was
that's a Nazi. That's a Nazi.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Well, yes, but yeah, and that does get shut down a lot in many European countries.
Well, you mean like a Holocaust denial? Holocaust denial is illegal in a lot of European countries.
Yeah, there's a good example.
And that is not illegal, and that is now the discussion to stop this nonsense to make it illegal to deny the Holocaust. I can deny the Holocaust as much as I want.
Prove me a Holocaust exists.
In some places you can't, because some places don't have that freedom of speech. They interpret it as hate speech.
Some places you can't deny the Holocaust. Yeah. Sorry, it's not confusing.
Well, people try and include it, but I think it's stupid to include that. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I can deny it as much as I want to. If something is a historical fact, I can deny it, sure, but that's being a bit stupid, I think. Anyway, so the freedom of the media is they can do anything they bloody well please, and it should be short of incitement. That's it. That's where I draw the line. They can offend me personally. They can draw caricatures of me personally. Who the fuck cares? They can go and draw caricatures of my grandfather, of my mother. Who the fuck cares? It has no bearing on me. It has no bearing on my views. And if either it's true or it's not true. And if somebody draws a caricature, I actually think it's quite an honor to be mentioned in a caricature, to be quite honest, because everybody will then need to know and understand what this is about. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. So, for me personally, and this is where I go with Kling again, I'm sorry, I have to agree with him for a change. Yes, it's a personal thing. I'm
ashamed of you.
One who feels offended, who cares? And if somebody does not feel offended, it doesn't matter, so they can do what they want.
Wait, stop. Also, do you believe that Islamophobia exists, and do you accept
I don't even know what that
That's
word
the question
means.
I wanted to ask.
What is
Define
that
it.
word?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm asking you. Do you agree that such? I guess okay. I mean, if I'm going to look,
I don't know if it exists. I don't know what the word means.
Define the term. What connotations do you have with the term Islamophobia?
Well, okay, I'm gonna Google this first, and then we'll go from there. It's like because I don't because I don't recognize the term as it is. So, but I'll just Google it and see. It says dislike or prejudice against Islam or Muslims, especially as a political force.
Dislike of a political force. Yes.
Yes, that exists.
Dislike of or prejudice against Islam or Muslims, especially as a political force. So
I don't like the prejudice. No.
But like for some people, they tend to interlink it with racism against African and Arab Muslims.
Well, Islam is not a race, so I
know, but
misinformation. Yes.
I know, but like some people are interlinking it with the hatred of Africans or the hatred
Wait,
of
wait.
Arabs.
Do you mean that people who don't like Islam sort of mix their dislike of Islam with a dislike of Arabs and Africans? Is that what you mean?
Well, for some people, they have that definition.
Or do you mean that
Many
people believe that Islamophobia is the hatred of Arabs and Africans or whatever? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, for some people, yeah.
Oh yeah, but even though there's like Arab Christians and like African Christians, right? I mean, it's just a false. No, if I criticize Islam, does that make me somehow Islamophobic? If I point out certain teachings
and a racist.
Yes. So
What is Islamophobic?
Exactly. I'm saying that it's in the eye of the beholder. Is it not? I mean, you can mold the definition and mold the term as you see fit, can't you?
Okay. If you say I am anti-communist,
That's the same with everything.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
I guess-
like
is there a communophobia?
I've never heard
for
of it.
example, if I can draw a parallel.
Yes, that's what there is. If you look at the propaganda from the 1960s, 1970s, when they had this, yes, the communists are plotting and they're going to kill you.
Yeah, that's the McCarthy
They're
area.
onto your bed. They're onto your bed.
That is a phobia. That was a rabid fear, and it was mostly unsubstantiated.
There was no word for it.
Well, that's correct. But the fact that there was, the Red Scare. There you go. The fact that whether or not there's a word for it doesn't mean the concept isn't valid. So what I would say is
exactly it.
You criticize
Okay,
Islam.
so-
That's fine.
So then,
The problem is when people have conspiracy theories and a sort of unsubstantiated prejudice or generalizations. That
Exactly.
falls into what I might say.
That is a phobia. Now, I don't have a phobia. I am afraid of Islam and the way it can be misinterpreted and abused. Yes.
So if I was to say that, I mean, would it be Islamophobic to say that I believe that Islam wishes to destroy all governments? I mean,
Yes.
That's not a phobia. That's a real fear. It's not a
That
phobia.
doesn't make any sense.
I wouldn't say it's
It's person.
It is also racist.
Whoa! Hang on, everybody. Come on. Take
Too many
it easy.
cooks.
Right. But like, it's just one thing that only 2 Muslim countries are theocracies.
officially, yes. Officially, yeah.
Yeah, but
But I mean, if the goal of Islam is to replace all governments, is that somehow phobic, or is that somehow like an irrational fear of something, or am I just calling a spade a spade?
But the goal of the Catholic Church is to exert global dominance as well, and to convert all people to the Church. I mean,
It's like the name.
I'm not phobic towards the Catholic Church, So it really depends on what we're actually referring to here and what you're talking about. So is it phobic to think all Muslims are going to fucking take over and turn this into? Yeah, I think that would be. Is it Islamophobic to say, oh, I'm worried that when it comes to some of these militant Muslim groups? Oh no, I don't necessarily think it's. I mean, I might suggest that it's unlikely you're going to ever be killed by them. You're probably more likely going to die from being hit in the head with a coconut or something. But I still like there's a real threat there to many people. For actual militant movement vis-a-vis a nebulous generalization. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So then I guess I'll rephrase the question: should the West fear? Should the West fear? The doctrine of Islam?
Absolutely.
I don't think so.
They should fear some Islamic doctrines. They shouldn't fear Islam as a whole. The same way they should fear some Christian doctrines, not Islam as a whole. Because Islam is not one thing. Islam is many different concepts held by different people.
He didn't say Islam. He said Islamic doctrine, and the doctrine, absolutely yes.
But there's more than one Islamic doctrine.
# kill all Muslims.
There is an Islamic doctrine, and the Islamic doctrine is to install Sharia wherever possible.
No, but
warfare against unbelievers. I mean,
Drastic
isn't that the
But
way?
there isn't even such a thing as Sharia.
Yeah.
but like
Yeah, that's true. Well, like, yeah, there isn't one
That's,
established.
okay, that's a different topic. I agree with you. There is no such thing as Sharia. But every
It's-
Muslim will tell you that the goal of Islam is to install Sharia, even though they don't know what it is. That is correct.
Hey, can I come in with a question that is related to this discussion?
Go for it, buddy.
It doesn't make any difference whether you do or not. There's so many
Okay,
now.
it's about the word Islamophobia. When we're talking about phobia, is it mean as a irrational fear?
Traditionally,
I do,
yes. That's the medical
So-
definition. So yes.
So is it a fear? How is it a phobia if I hate bad ideas and a bad ideology? It's like they're
It's
mixing
not.
hate with fear.
No. If you have an irrational fear of that, what the doctrine says,
I don't feel it
whatever
in
is
doctrine.
that
I
is
hate
being
it.
expressed there, then it's a phobia. Otherwise, it's just a fear. If you're afraid of something, like I am afraid of the doctrine of Islam, yes. Is that irrational? No, I don't think so. Is it real? Yes. If I do the same thing for Christians, I am also afraid of the Christian doctrine. Is it irrational? Yes, because I don't see the implementation of the Christian doctrine in any country at the moment, except maybe the Holy See in Italy. But that's about it. I don't see anybody going for the Christian states of the United States or something. I don't see that. But I see Islamic republics. And I see Daesh trying to establish a country, a nation, an ummah worldwide. The same in Boko Haram, the same in Al-Shabaab. They are all groups which are all trying to gain control over the Islamic people, the followers of Islam, called Muslims. So it doesn't matter whether you're in Indonesia or whether you're in Morocco, they are trying to gain control over your thoughts so that they can implement their political system. And that is the doctrine of Islam. So am I irrationally afraid of that? No, I am afraid of that doctrine. Do I see this happening anytime soon? No. So this is the difference. So the doctrine I'm afraid of,
Yeah,
and I'm not afraid of it being implemented as such.
yeah. But
Have
the
you
thing
ever-
I was, but the thing I was saying at that I'm not fearing it. I hate it. When people hate the ideology, they also they'll get calling as a phobia, Islamophobia or phobia, whatever.
Yeah, but that's a different sentiment.
Well, yeah, but I also hate the ideas in Islam.
Well, I hate
But-
religion.
Just-
Come on,
it's a
let me
model of
be
bad
honest about
ideas.
that. I'm biased, yes.
but
Just one other thing. Have you ever seen somebody who is suffering a phobia admitting that his fears are irrational?
Good point. Actually,
Actually,
yes.
I have.
I had a phobia of bridges, and I admitted that it was a phobia.
Yeah, a lot of people with phobias do acknowledge that their phobia is a phobia. Like that's why they go and seek help for it. If you have a fear of flying plastic bags so bad that if a flying plastic bag comes down the street, you go into a fetal position and you realize that's not normal behavior in your social context, then you're probably thinking, yeah, this is pretty irrational. So yeah, I think a lot of people with phobias, genuine phobias, do recognize they have a phobia, that it is a rational fear.
But like just for the statement, even though I am an ex-Muslim, I don't hate Islam. Thank you.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, everybody's entitled to their hate, their own private personal hate.
No, I'm saying that I don't hate Islam.
Okay, I'm sorry. Everyone is entitled to their hate. In my eyes, also includes the opposite. So everybody is entitled to their hate or non-hate, however they please. I think that's absolutely correct. Yes.
I mean,
And
I guess
it is part of free
I hate.
speech.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I hate stupid ideas. So, I guess that makes me phobic too. I guess, huh?
No, this is exactly the difference. Where I think if I hate plastic bags, then that's a phobia. But if I hate being killed by a satellite falling on my head, I mean, those are phobias. But if I see what Islam is doing, and I am, for example, in Afghanistan, then I don't think that this is a phobia anymore. Then this is very, very real. That the chances of you getting killed as a non-believer, do you know how uncomfortable sometimes I felt? Because you can see that I was not a Muslim in those Muslim majority countries. With me, it is very obvious because I was not wearing the same attire. And it's not the fact that I had an armed bodyguard next to me, but it makes you feel and it makes you cringe when you feel that you are the outsider. So there it becomes very, very obvious. And there I was very scared, let me tell you.
You dirty kafir eating your pig and drinking your beer.
Exactly.
Also,
There was no beer.
don't be. I was about to say, don't be so turned off when the usage of the word doesn't conform perfectly to the etymology of the word. So, like for example, misogynist does not always mean hate, and gynist, like women. It doesn't always mean you hate women. It's used if the usage of it is not, it's etymological makeup. And I think the same has happened to Islamophobia. Sorry.
This is the same thing when we come down to the words. Words don't have meaning. Words just have information. The meaning is the personal understanding of it. That is the difference.
Words are prescribed meanings, pretty much.
No,
really.
That's exactly
They
not.
don't inherently
Words don't have
meaning.
meaning.
You give them the meaning.
No, he's agreeing with
have a
you.
meaning.
Oh my god, you just said the same thing with different words. He's saying they are prescribed meaning, so they are given meaning by people.
Yes.
Right, so you're saying the same thing. Yeah.
But I think everyone has spoken except Frank. I think we should let him speak.
Frank, welcome to the show.
That's a very good idea.
USA.
Well, isn't that the flag of Cuba?
No, it's Puerto Rican.
Okay, so I was in the right region but the wrong country. Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, Frank. What are your thoughts on all this?
I don't know. I just bored. Just wanted to join the conversation or something like that.
Okay, fair enough. Do you know what we're talking about?
Not exactly.
Okay. Well, this is. Do you know what this podcast is called?
Podcast.
It doesn't.
Okay,
well, there's a lot of
just
people
so you know,
who are just hanging out. That's cool.
Okay, but just so you know, this is like a recorded podcast. So just so you feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, do you have any thoughts on the discussion thus far with what we're talking about, with concepts?
No.
Islamophobia?
Why don't you ask a very straight question? Have you heard in the news what happened in Paris 3 days ago?
3 days. Let me see.
Okay, then there's no point in asking you what you think about it. So, okay, cool. Just listen in, just sit back and relax.
Wait, Frank, did you use the Hangout snitch?
I guess, yeah.
Fucking troll.
Doesn't matter. Just carry on. Okay.
Regardless. Well, can I go back to what TJ said previously then? Because I thought there was a number of really interesting issues to explore with why is Islam ostensibly so especially aggressive, and also the question of the massacre of Hindus in India. Okay, well, I'll just jump into it. With the India issue, one thing to note is that they ended up developing Muslim jurists and thinkers in the region, ended up, like I think notably Biruni, for example, ended up developing the idea that Hindus are actually dhimmis and subject to dhimmi rules. So they actually ended up changing those rules and not actually implementing them with the kill-all polytheists, which again demonstrates that these laws, these concepts, these rules are malleable and change from culture to culture depending upon what is expedient to people at the time. So that would be the first thing to note. The other thing is that most of the massacres in India were undertaken against Muslim states. So most of the major massacres of these Turco-Mongol invaders, especially Timur bin Taraghe, for example, he was invading and fighting against Muslim states and massacring Muslims as well as Hindus. So to cite it, and the other thing with Timur, especially, is that in the name of jihad, he was actually massacring huge Muslim populations throughout the Middle East, as well as Christians and other groups. So to say that he was also conforming to the Mongol pattern. So to ascribe this to Islam seems to me extremely untenable, because it was just the Mongol pattern. And I mean, pre-Islam, post-Islam, the behavior seems extremely similar. Islam doesn't really change anything; it has almost no agency, right? So other than the most superficial articulation of ideology. So that with India, there's actually it's not simply Islamic theology. It's almost Islamic theology almost has nothing to do with it. You still have the same kind of behavior with and without it. So it's really the context. It's really the different ethnic groups that were coming in and their context as nomads and their destructive lifestyles and that kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
What's that? She's popular and she's African and she was a Muslim and she criticized Islam. Aryan
Hassani?
Yeah, Aryan Hassani and there was an other guy who's a Muslim, Mehdi Hassani.
Mehdi Hassan?
Mehdi Hassan. I mean, I hear that they say that you have to westernize Islam, like change it.
No, Islam has to change from in itself. It's got nothing to do with westernizing.
No, westernize that way,
not Western values.
But change it as a way, kind of make it fully change the Quran.
Yes,
honestly,
they need a reform. They badly need a reform, otherwise they're going to die.
Reform, yeah, that's the word.
See, the thing that changes the religion is the environment. So, from demonstrably, as we've already demonstrated throughout the show repeatedly, when you change the context, the religion changes to fit the context.
Yeah,
so,
but the thing is, the Quran is the supposedly, they claim to be the written word of God.
So why do Muslims not follow it?
That means if you're trying to reform it, that means you're disproving it, or you're ruining it.
No, this is exactly the point. You need
why reform it? Why not discard the religion as whole?
Well, you need to. No, this is the point that Kling is now trying to make.
We're not talking about an ideal
world. This. It has been interpreted. Now it needs to be reinterpreted. This is the only thing that you need to do. Because at the moment, all that you're doing is you're taking some bits out of the Quran and saying, this is what we need to implement. No, you just go do away with that and take the other ones.
But reform the Quran doesn't mean change it literally.
But for a peaceful interpretation, that's already happened with the Ahmadiyya sect. So it would make sense to promote the Ahmadiyyas.
I'm not talking about the interpretations. I was talking about reforming the supposedly holy book.
I
But you can't.
think you don't. I don't think
you follow the Quran.
Yeah. They they already don't follow the Quran. They can just not follow the
Quran.
How many prayers?
The same reason why they don't have to stop believing in the Bible.
How many prayers?
Of course, I didn't mention the Christian and all the others, but now I want to. But why not discard the ridiculous beliefs you have?
No, it's not that.
That would be ideal.
Okay. How do you go about doing that? You've got a quarter of the world's population. Get them to discard their cultural connotation.
No.
Changing the culture, but changing a stupid religious belief.
No, Klingschor, just repeat your point.
Sorry.
Why reinterpreting something that's already bad when you know it since you're
it's more realistic. What's more realistic? That we can change the sort of the cultural environment through the infrastructure and the society there, which then affects moderate or non-aggressive interpretation of the scripture, as has been the pattern in all countries that seem to modernize and become prosperous. Or that we say, all right, you can all just stop believing now. I mean, it's just unrealistic. But what stop wanting me to repeat is, how many prayers are prescribed within the Quran?
Supposedly, the holy man changed the will of God apparently from 50 to 5.
No. Within the Quran.
In the Quran, it doesn't say anything. That's the point.
No, the Quran says that it mentions 3 prayers. There are 3 prayers mentioned within the Quran. That's the Salat al-Fajr, the dawn prayer, Salat al-Wusta, which is the middle prayer, and Salat al-Isha, which is the evening prayer. And yet Muslims don't follow that. They follow 5 prayers, which is probably from Zoroastrianism. So again, the fact that the Quran is the word of God is meaningless. In terms of how it's actually used and abused or implemented or not implemented, it's no real different from the Bible. It's just people ignore it, people supplement it, people develop exegetical traditions to suit their own personal perspective. So I think that's worth keeping in mind.
But
I think I've said this in the past. Oh, go on.
yeah, but like as I was saying, like I mean, it is unrealistic to expect Muslims to have like completely new narratives. I think the best thing to do is look at the existing narratives that are around and promote one of them. And one
That's
of
what we're saying. That's exactly what we're saying.
No, but like one of the more peaceful narratives, as you could call them, are probably the Ahmadiyas.
Okay, but this is what type of interpretation? That's exactly what we're saying. If the Ahmadiyas are taking some pieces out of the Quran and making them look more peaceful, then that is exactly it. So all we're saying is there is a way of reinterpreting it, where the last 30 years it has been interpreted to radicalize people. We need to change this. That we need to make sure, and this is what Muslims internally have to do. Muslims internally have to say, it is enough. We don't want to be radicalized. We don't need those imams that are telling us how bad the kuffar is and how we need to fight them and how we need to take over the world and we are the better people and they are the stupid idiots. We need to come to terms that we are all human beings and that Muslims have a belief system. So it's just a matter of reinterpreting.
And I think they're doing that. I think they're doing that, but just a note to HOGC. I don't know if you've been going by another name, but just a note. I've said in the past that I'd rather I'm perfectly okay with an intellectually dishonest and completely ethical theist. If you're intellectually dishonest, if you're like, oh, there's murder and blah blah blah, it's like, no, it's not. And you're an alright guy. I don't care. Good. Fine. Actually, good. Good that you're dishonest.
Any day of the week, I would take a progressive theist over a conservative atheist, for example. Socially progressive.
Yeah, very much so.
You know, so it goes to the same thing, I guess. Anyway, it's on the hour, so I suppose we should wrap things up.
Wait. Spamming. What's your next video? Is it about LDM? Sorry, GDM?
I haven't decided. No, I'm actually getting sick of this. Come on, I mean, it's I don't.
Just admit it. You love it.
Yeah, but no, this is fun, but it's not really what I like doing. I like digging. I like going into the past. I like looking at facts, and I like showing these things. All right. I mean, LDM. This is like. I mean, these are throwaway videos. Okay, it takes me an hour to make one, and it's fun. But that's it. I mean, they're too easy because they're so stupid.
It is to have originality.
But like, I've got a question before we wrap things up, and it was actually in the comments of the video. And the question is, do you think all Muslims should like come out and condemn every terrorist actions?
No. It's not condemning. This is like telling the South African policeman, naughty policeman for killing all those blacks. No, you don't condemn the action. You condemn where it comes from. You condemn the callous approach towards human rights. You condemn the interpretation of Islam as being this violent thing against all the kuffar and that they are better. You need to go back to the basics now. We've had this 30 years of reinterpreting this and say, no, it's not enough anymore. We need to change this.
And I think, like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think any Muslim organization actually came out and done that.
No, you're not wrong. This is the problem. You are absolutely right. This is the problem. This is what most Muslims are doing. They're just condemning. They think it's enough. It's not. I mean, come on. A couple of years ago, this girl in Sudan named her teddy bear Muhammad, and there was rampage. Millions of Muslims went to the streets and said, oh, it's offensive and blah, blah, blah. This is horrible. This is terrible. This is such a huge crime. They can go and protest the naming of a teddy bear, but when it comes to killing and when it comes to all this, they do absolutely fuck all. That is not possible. It needs to stop. It needs to. Muslims have to come out and say this is enough. They need to change it. We cannot change it from the outside. We can only show them that we do not approve of this. But the changes have to come from within.
I have another example that you mentioned about the teddy bear. There's also the movie, supposedly movie about Muhammad, the horrible one.
Yeah.
They burned embassy and hundreds.
Was it?
Benghazi, you know, right?
Oh, you mean that cartoon? I mean,
No,
not cartoon.
It's the Coptic guy made that thing on YouTube. The Innocence of Muslims.
Yeah,
or
that's
something.
the one.
And they came out in droves, and they went to the streets, and they protested, and they killed, and they burned, and they did everything. And now, nothing. I condemn those terrorists. No, fuck you. You need to take action. Take responsibility. Take ownership of your beliefs and your ideology, and bloody well do something. And don't just stand there, oh, there are such bad people. I don't think this is with Islam. Islam is all about peace. No, fuck you. Do something.
No, stop. I mean, like, you know, even beyond that point, like, you know, all the, like I would say about 90% of the, like, you know, Muslim leaders I saw speak out, they're like, well, we condemn the attacks, but this was in bad taste.
It's exactly. It's the
but. But, exactly. I'm like, call a spade a spade. Either you condemn the ideology, like, you know, in which they believe in, or you don't. I mean, you know,
in principle, I'm against violence, but if they insult the Prophet, well,
all bets are off.
Stoning women, but if they are adulterers, well, then we should reconsider. That's exactly what I have been saying for years. Stop the stupid but.
Exactly. And you know, for me, I mean, it is intellectual dishonesty. I mean, at the end of the day. Either you condemn it or you don't.
Unfortunately, it's not only that. It's not only intellectual, but it gets, you know, it gets very physical at the end of the day, and this is the problem. Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, you know.
Okay. Can we have some closing thoughts? Otherwise, because this is going to continue for the next 2 hours. I know. Because
let's get everyone's views.
What happens down during the bombing of newspaper? Can you believe how crazy they are?
It was the Jews, all the Zionists of the world.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
My paymasters, in fact. All right.
How many shekels did they pay you?
20.
They paid me 2 and a potato.
See, I'm higher up in the pecking order. I get more. See. All right. So anyway, I guess no. But if I'm trusting the fucking comment section for this video, I guess I'm now on the payroll of Saudi Arabia or something.
I haven't even paid attention. To
I have betrayed the Zionist policy or something. Now I'm being paid dirhams and dinars. Anyway, on that bombshell.
But hang on, can I have 10 seconds? Because there's one thing I really need to do. I mean, all the rest of the stuff I did for this week, I will just continue next week. But there's one thing I need to do. I butchered the Hadith of the day last week because I was reading it without using my brain. So, because I think things also got a bit hectic last time. So, I need to correct this because there was a Hadith of the day, which was supplied by Kulasa again. So the Lord descends every night to the lowest heaven when 1/3 of the night remains and says, "Who will call upon me that I may answer him? Who will ask of me that I may give him? Who will seek my forgiveness that I may forgive him?" Now, the point of the whole Hadith is, and this I completely missed it. I just thought it was funny, the fact that somebody would do this, that the Lord would come down from his penthouse and then listen in on what people have to say, that he needs to leave the penthouse. No. Well, actually, if you look at it, the Lord descends every night to the lowest heaven when 1/3 of the night remains. Now, can you tell me an area of the planet where it is 1/3 of the night remains? No, because there is no such thing. Because we live on a sphere, we don't live on a flat Earth. So 1/3 of the night remains is everywhere on the planet. No matter what time of the day you go, it's always 1/3 of the night somewhere on the planet. So this God descends and then stays in the lowest heaven because for the rest of his life, or for the rest of the planet, it's going to be a third of the night remaining on the planet. So this God is going to stay there, and he will not be able to do anything else except listen to what people have to say. That's how stupid it is.
He's following around. He's following around just where the third of the night is, and he's just following the rotation of the Earth.
Yeah, but he's
forever.
not doing anything else anymore. This is the point.
Yeah.
And I butchered this last time without pointing this out, so I apologize, and I hope I've rectified it accordingly now.
All right, the record has been set.
I'm so relieved.
All right, let's get everyone's final thoughts. HOGC, do you have any final thoughts or summary before the show ends?
Well, the summary is that we all come to a conclusion that we should not. Wait. That doesn't matter. Just quit it. I'm not going to join in many months, but this was great. Have a nice day.
Thank you. You too. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Juice.
So my final thoughts on this show would take probably...
You finally lose. Right at the end.
You have 15 seconds and the clock is ticking.
Oh shit. My final thoughts for this show would be too long to summarize that now. Oh, please knock it off. Thanks.
Stop it.
No, but I just wanted to say something else about previous shows where you and Klingschor and Stop discussed about the uniqueness of Islam, and I'm just from my experience with Judaism, I totally have to agree with Klingschor that Islam is nothing unique.
I didn't pay you enough.
You
No,
can't
sorry.
see me, but I'm dancing around the room doing a victory lap. Yeah.
Yes, I did live the day in vain. I came to listen to that happening, even though I cannot see it. No, I just when people say that Islam is not just a religion, this is not really this is correct because Islam is not just a religion, but neither of the other religions is just a religion. So that's what I want to end that with.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. I agree with that one.
All right. Salsa, give us your final thoughts.
Well, my thoughts are it's actually it's actually direct to you, Kling, because
No, you can't have some of my shekels.
No, because the Saudi Arabian authorities have told me that they will pay you for defending Islam on Friday.
Awesome. All right.
In the Medina mosque, yeah.
Is it 72 Hur al-Ain or is it 72 raisins? Either.
High-breasted raisins.
Yes. Hell yeah.
The payment will be in US dollars.
US dollars.
All 5 of them, yeah.
All right, fantastic. Thanks for coming on, man.
Cheers.
All right. TJ, what are your final thoughts?
Well, I mean, it was a sad week for for the West as a whole, I think, and we need to be honest with ourselves and with each other, about the threat that is staring us straight in the face, and if we don't call a spade, we're just gonna slowly, we will lose our freedoms, and if we don't stand up now, nobody else is going to stand up for us. So at the end of the day, we're fighting a totalitarian, which is bent on world domination. So, question is, are you with them or are you with the West? Take your pick now, and choose wisely.
Okay, I don't like this distinguishment, this divide with the West or with us or with the us and the them. I think we're all human beings, and I think we should all work together and live together. That's it.
Hey, now this is final thoughts. This is leave them as they are. All right, and finally, Salamut. What are your thoughts?
I guess my final thoughts is just don't try to generalize an idea of a building by looking at one wall.
That's a nice picture.
All right, so we ended with some profound metaphors and everything. Do you have a hadith for the day, Stop?
No, I don't. I just no. I just wanted to rectify last week's.
All right. Well, do you want me to read one of those hadiths about Muhammad killing a satirist or something, since that's sort of the topic?
Have you got one? Sure, go ahead.
Oh, I'll find one in 1 second. All right. Now, obviously, as I've said, I don't think that Scripture really influences people, but for people to deny that this is in the Scripture is obviously dishonest. So now I just have to find this. All right, so Sahih al-Bukhari narrates, for example, there's actually heaps. There's actually a lot of hadith, quite a few, but I'm just going to read one. Okay, narrated Jabir. This is Sahih al-Bukhari, hadith number 3032, and he narrates, the Prophet said, "Who is ready to kill Ka'ab bin al-Ashraf?" Muhammad bin Maslama said, "Do you like me to kill him?" The Prophet replied in the affirmative. Muhammad bin Maslama said, "Then allow me to say what I like." The Prophet replied, "I do." So there you go. Contract killing of a satirist. Anyway, there you go. On that bombshell, as they say.
Bye, everybody.
See you later.